This episode is sponsored by Bright Cellars. With the holidays rapidly approaching, it's a great time to try Bright Cellars if you haven't yet. Here's how it works. You take a quick 7-question quiz and they match you with wines from all over the world based on your taste palette. Then they send those wines directly to your door so you don't have to go label shopping at your local store. You can get $50 off your first 6-bottle box of Bright Cellars by using the link in the video description, and you're gonna need it because today we're making Arancini. Let's get down to basics. Alright, so any conversation about arancini usually starts with risotto. That's the last time I roll my R's, I promise. Now, not only have we covered risotto ad nauseum on Basics Binging Anime with Alvin and Funded Kendalls, but due to some very dark stock, this batch came out pretty brown. Moreover, most of the professional arancini recipes we could find do something rather shocking. They cook the arborio rice just like it's regular ass rice. So I'm combining 5 cups of much lighter chicken stock with 4 tablespoons of butter in a large pot, bringing it to a simmer, and in defiance of all the laws of food, physics, society, and possibly God, we're going to add 2 cups of arborio rice, move it around to break it up, cover the lid, blocking any built-in steam holes, and cook the risotto rice to a state of completion without stirring it once. It sure felt weird, but here we are. A lighter, fluffier arborio, which we're going to keep covered and let steam for about 10 minutes before spreading out onto a rim baking sheet and allowing to cool, first to room temperature, then covered in plastic and overnight in the fridge. And there you have it, a slightly more neutral, less gloopy rice to make our arancini. Next up, we gotta talk fillings, and there are 3 that seem to be the most essential. First, a simple pork ragu, sauteing together half a small minced onion, rib or 2 of celery, and a couple small carrots in 2 tablespoons of light olive oil until softened. At that point, we're going to add a pound of ground pork, perhaps in a small clearing at the center of the pan so it gets direct contact with the heat. Crumble up and cook over medium-high until no longer pink. Grate a little my very favorite, half a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, the only bay leaf you got in the house, little guy, and 3 tablespoons of tomato paste that we're going to saute together for 1 to 3 minutes until the tomato paste starts to stick to the bottom of the pot. Then we're going to add a 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes plus a can's worth of water, bring it to a simmer, lower the heat, and cook for about an hour until it's reduced and thick. You don't want too loose a ragu, otherwise it will leak out of your chini. Let it cool to room temperature, optionally refrigerate overnight. Next up, we have the alla norma varietal, which, fun fact, was actually named after someone named Norma. In a couple tablespoons of oil, we are sauteing 1 small peeled and diced eggplant, 3 to 5 minutes or until browned and a fond is beginning to form. Scoop aside, and then right into the way too hot pan, we're dumping a 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, frantically lowering the heat and scraping up that fond off the bottom of the pot. Bring this to a simmer and cook until reduced and no longer raw tasting, at least 20 minutes. Add the eggplant back to the situation along with a half a cup of chopped fresh basil, and once it's cooled off a little, about 2 ounces of grated ricotta salata. Mix that in until combined but not melted, and once again spread it out in an aluminum thing. As its rapid heat dispersal will cool it off faster, just watch your fingers. Last but not least, the one I'm most excited for, al burro. This starts with a roux made from 3 tablespoons each flour and butter, into which we're going to start slowly adding splashes of whole milk, about 1 cup's worth, rapidly whisking to fully incorporate before adding the next splash, repeating until all the milk has been transformed into a bechamel, which we're going to cook for about 3 minutes until starting to thicken, seasoning to taste with kosher salt and bechamel's most essential familiar, nutmeg again. Now we're going to pass this through a fine mesh sieve into another aluminum thing in order to catch any errant chunks, and we're cooling the bechamel to room temperature before optionally fridging. Alright, so we got our rice, we got our fillings, now it's time to shape. With wetted hands, this helps prevent the rice from sticking. For the first one, I've got about a 110-gram ball here, which I'm going to start using my thumb to press a significant divot into, one deep enough to comfortably hold about 2 tablespoons worth of stuff. I'm going to start with the alla norma filling, carefully shuffling it into the little abyss, and then just like a Scotch egg, you just gotta kind of you gotta sort of like pull it up around the film. This can't be right, Andy. What you're doing can't be right. Please stop this because you know that you're wrong. So let's go reassess, watch a video on the matter, and discover that you gotta set aside a little bit of rice to turn into a little hat so that you can create an uninterrupted shell of rice around the filling. For the alla norma, I'm going with a time-tested classic, round. And then for the pork ragu filling, which I forgot to add frozen peas and freshly grated Parmesan to, I'm going with the slightly more interesting looking Sicilian cone formation. This starts very much the same way, albeit with a little bit more rice, maybe like 150 grams worth, filled with the same 2 tablespoons of stuffing and topped with the same rice hat. And then by, let's face it, cradling it in your hands, you sort of pat the bottom with your fingers and let the heels of your palms form the top into a cone. I would love to see what I would have made if I had only read that technique instead of watching it. Then, last but not least, the big bad al burro, the only R I'm still gonna roll. We're adding the bechamel to about 4 ounces of chopped ham and 4 ounces of cubed low moisture mozzarella. So yes, this is going to taste good. How'd you guess? Mix it together and stuff same as the spheres, but this time pressing it into a more ovular egg-like shape for oval-shaped arancini al burro. Now we're gonna fridge all of these so that they firm up a little bit before breading and frying. But first, something's been eating at me. I can't deny myself any longer. I have to make a cube-shaped arancini. I'm sure that this is problematic to somebody, but I just gotta follow my gut on this one. So I'm sacrificing one of the alla normas and fashioned into the best cube that I can make rice be. Then, like I said, fridge for about 20 minutes, and then they're getting passed through a 3-stage pre-deep frying system. That is flour, then egg, then plain breadcrumbs. Now, if you don't utilize the wet hand, dry hand technique, you're gonna end up with breaded fingertips, but I did discover that breaded fingers still work on modern capacitive touchscreens. Now, for my cubecini, since I am already criminally deviating from tradition, might as well go panko, am I right? Now these guys are headed into some 350-degree Fahrenheit vegetable oil for 4 to 6 minutes, until deeply golden brown and hopefully cooked through. We're draining these on paper towels so as to retain their crispness. Rinse and repeat with the remaining arancini, 2 or 3 at a time so you don't overcrowd the pan, nor bring down the temperature of the oil too much. Last but not least, I got my arancini tesseract, and with that, it's finally time to enjoy. I'm going for one of the al burros to start because I'm hoping the filling will be melty, and it's not. Sometimes if the oil's too hot or if the arancini are too big, they won't cook all the way through, so adjust the heat as necessary, and worst case scenario, throw them in the oven 5 or 10 minutes so you get this. Oh! But as usual, watch your fingers. Thanks again to Bright Cellars for sponsoring today's episode. Like I said before, the holidays are a great time to try Bright Cellars so that you have some wine on hand. Don't feel like cooking for Friendsgiving? Bring wine instead. Visiting your great aunt's big family gathering? Bring a bottle of wine as a host's gift. Or just make some arancini and grab a bottle that pairs best with it. In this case, it's the Azzurri Sauvignon Blanc, a dry, acidic white wine that's perfect for both cooking and consuming arancini. Each box comes with wine education cards so you know what food to pair the wines with, what temperature they should be, and other tasting notes. For me, my favorite part is the convenience. I can choose to receive wine on a schedule that works for me so I don't have to run to the store if I'm hosting or cooking. You can get $50 off your first 6-bottle box at Bright Cellars by using the link in the video description.